Hi everyone, I'm Ayana and I am a priest. I'm here today to talk about haunted objects. Yes, like dolls, rings, Dybbuk boxes, anything that could be considered haunted, what they can do, what they can't do, and how they're made, what the theories are running on those objects. So, today, first, I want to start talking about haunted dolls. That's probably the number one. eBay. We've got eBay. We've got people going on eBay and buying haunted dolls. We've got Annabelle. We have tons of people claiming that their dolls are haunted. They are humanoid objects. So, yes, items can be haunted. It's pretty rare, and there are some theoretical physical limitations to those items. So, one of the physical limitations is that if it is a object that is like a doll, it does need to have hard surfaces. So it needs to be made out of resin or plastic. Things like stuffed animals can somehow, and I'm telling you this from like a priest, from spiritual world, this is the theory, theoretically, for some reason they do not have the ability to become haunted. And theoretically, this is just because of the denseness of the actual item, the density doesn't have enough energy in it to allow something to attach to it. It's just too free flow. Like feng shui in a home, you want all of the energy flowing around. That's how you get our, fresh energy. That's how you get your best life, your best finances, the best experience from feng shui. Now, in a stuffed animal, essentially the energy just kind of flows in and out. Whereas you have a hard surface like a doll, like resin, porcelain, especially is a good conduit, or plastic, but tends to be more of the porcelain and more of the resin type dolls that are purportedly haunted. And also, in my experience, when there are spirits attached to a doll, it tends to be a porcelain or resin doll or item, item in general. There is a denseness that appears to be necessary. That said, every now and then you do have spirits that will be attached to other objects. For example, a large painting of a woman may carry, and I have experienced this in my own practice. There may be an attached spirit to that. And it's a very large canvas painting, probably life size, with the gilded frame. So it could be attaching to the canvas, it could be attaching to the frame. We don't have specifics because, again, all of spirituality is not science. It is an interpretation to each individual, and it is all theoretical. So, again, I've seen that. I've also seen statuary, so marble statues, granite statues. Statuary can have an attached spirit that is literally attached to that object. And then finally, and I've seen one other object which blew my mind, and I've never seen anything like it. Again, it's only been one time in many, 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 many years of doing this. It's been multiple decades. And I've seen one time I saw a wedding dress that had a spirit attached to it, which I thought was interesting because a wedding dress is not dense, but this one was. It was covered in pearls, beadwork. I mean, it was very thick. It was not, it was not flowing or anything, but it was still shocking. It was still shocking. Was the spirit attached to one of the beads, one of the buttons, or was it attached to the dress itself? We don't know. We don't know how it works, really, right? This is all theoretical. But but I will say haunted dolls are more rare than I think media would like us to believe. Haunted dolls obviously cannot be bought on eBay for the most part. That said, because we're talking about haunted objects, I want to talk about how objects become haunted, okay? Now, a lot of times, especially when you're going on eBay or sellers, people will proclaim that it came with the spirit already. And they'll give you a backstory of what the spirit's name is theoretically, how old it was, and how they passed away. There are items and objects that can be so deeply held by a person that when they go to the other side, or they're deeply beloved or deeply revered, that when they go to the other side, they are either able to, or they fully attach to that object even when they've died. Sometimes it's just to make sure that the object doesn't get in the wrong hands. Sometimes it's because they don't know any better, and this is their comfort object, so they don't know what's going on. They're just there at the object. Sometimes, and now in a lot of spiritual practices, you can call a spirit, and through specific methodologies, you can kind of enmesh the spirit into the doll or into the item. A lot of, like, in some spiritualities, you'll have a pot. The pot may be full of herbs or, things that are inside, and then you call the spirit down, and, this becomes its resting place when you open up that portal. Essentially, that is a human, and these are all theoretical, just understand, like, I call it a portal, but it's when a human is able to kind of, like, open to the spiritual realm. Portals is probably the most common way to phrase what is essentially kind of opening a door to the spiritual realm. So when they kind of open that portal and then they say, hey, specific spirit, can you come right here and just, like, this is your, and they kind of, like, tie the energy. Now, humans aren't very powerful, so maybe we can do that. We can do that. Most of the haunted objects I've seen are because the person died and was still very, very attached to that object. Sometimes I have not seen, which I think is interesting, I have not seen a spirit of, say, an animal attached to an object, right? Because I think humans are very interested in their objects. We are like birds or crows or whatever, and we love shiny things. We like to collect, and this has been since the dawn of humanity. We've always been this way. It's literally built into our DNA, into our atomical makeup, that we really like to collect things. We like to hold on to things. We like pretty things. Our bartering systems from the very beginning of humanity has always been, hey, I'll trade you these pretty beads or these pretty metals for that corn, so it's something so deep in us that it has to be a natural instinct for our human species to survive. This is why we've been alive so long. So this is part of our humanity, our species, that causes us to continue as a species, is this desire to kind of collect things and be attached to those objects, and we see a lot of importance on those. If you have a painting made of you and it's full length and it's gorgeous and it hangs in your house and you're very attached to it, of course you probably want to come back when you're dead, right? This is your jam, especially in a time where there's not much else going on. Now we have an interconnected world. Everybody can talk to everybody. You can AI generate your portraits all day, every day. But in the early 1800s, I talk about that just because this painting was from the early 1800s. What else do you have to do than to admire your own painting? You sat for, 30, 40 days just to get it painted, and then you're admiring it every day. You're not on the internet. You don't have a global view of things. You don't see how vast the world is, or you can't get your portrait generated in 10 minutes through from 1980s high school yearbook generation. So what else are you going to do than attach yourself to this object? So it makes sense that some historic items get haunted, that some historic items are so valuable to their owners that they will kind of enmesh into them. But in the case of dolls, it is very rare. Some spiritual practices actually intentionally attach spirits to dolls. For example, they'll ask a spirit, they'll kind of do the rituals, and the spirit will kind of inhabit the doll, and that becomes the protector. And some places you'll go, especially in other countries, they'll have, you know, a doll at the front of the store to protect the store, or they'll have, you know, we do use a lot of symbolistic features, and some of the times we're calling the spirit to come protect us. Some of the times you're not. For example, if you're going to Asia, you may see lions in the front of their buildings to protect the building. A lot of the times there's no spirits attached to that. It's more of a metaphorical ask. But if you go to Latin America and you see a doll of Shango in the front of their shop, then they've called the spirit down to the doll, and the spirit may, you know, come and go, or act as a protector. Part of it may act as a protector. So that is how I see that. Now, I will also mention one other facet of haunted objects, and that is that some haunted objects are just a facet of the spirit, right? Humans, we like to think we're one, like I'm a specific person, blah blah blah. But in the spiritual realm, there are spirits that don't really contain themselves to that small of a body, right? So you can ask a spirit, and this kind of is like how theoretically Christianity thinks of archangels. You can ask Archangel Michael to come help you, protect you, right? Well, is Archangel Michael himself coming down, and all the other kids who are also praying for Archangel Michael are not seeing him? No. What I theorize and what I think happens is that these very, very strong spirits can kind of branch pieces of themselves off into different realms and different, you know, boxes and things, right? So when you're calling that spirit over, it's just a piece of that spirit, and it is connected to the entity itself, but maybe the entity isn't confined by, say a body, or say, you know, a this or that. It can kind of go wherever it wants, and it can have little tendrils, not even tendrils, but like pieces of itself around wherever it wants, because it's that strong. So some of those are like that. I did want to talk about Dybbuk boxes. Now, Dybbuk boxes are a fraud. If you have not already figured that out, they were made up for the show Ghost Adventures, which is a fantastic show. I love that show so much. It's so entertaining. Half the time I'll yell at the TV. You know, it'll be like, could this be the spirit telling us this and that? And I'll be like, no, because it's not haunted. You know, like I'll be like, no, it's not. That's not what ghosts do. But I freaking love it. I love the drama. I love the entertainment value. I love Zach. I love Aaron. I love all those guys so much. I love Billy. I love how awkward he is. Like, it is one of my favorite shows. I love to watch it. I'll probably watch it after this. But it's not all of it's real. I believe they sometimes capture some really good EVPs. I believe they have gone to haunted places. I believe some of their stuff is real, but I think they exaggerate. You know, the orbs, come on, it's a freaking insect. I'm just saying. So the Dybbuk box was a marketing, like, it was just a ploy. Now, I don't know if Zach believed somebody else who made it up. Somebody else could have made it up. But it was proven to be a fraud. It is not real. Go Google it if you haven't. And I think maybe someone tried to pull the wool over Zach's eyes, and that's why he believes it. Or maybe he was in on it. It is good marketing. It is good TV. It's great TV. I freaking love that show. And I just, this is not sponsored by Travel Channel. I wish, okay? So that's how haunted objects tend to work. They are much more rare than they would have you believe. Oh, and finally, I should mention that there is, because the spirit is connected to the item itself, almost, I'm going to say, I have not personally seen, and I've been doing this for 20 years. I am old. And I have not personally ever seen a spirit able to influence anything when someone touches the item. For example, if you go touch the portrait of the woman, it's not going to change anything. The woman is attached to the item, and the spirit is attached to the item. They cannot follow you home from that item because of the way they are attached to it. And why would they want to? They're obsessed with this painting. They're obsessed with this wedding dress. They're not going to follow you home. You're not going to get cursed. In fact, you could keep the wedding dress, from my experience, and it is vast. You could keep the haunted wedding dress in one room of your home and never experience anything in the rest of your home because it's attached to that object. That said, keep the wedding dress in your room, you might start having weird stuff happen in your room, but you're not going to see it remove itself or wander from the object. That's why it's on the object. So if you touch Annabelle, nothing will happen to you that wasn't already fated. You know, this is not a ghost. It is not cursed. It is not anything like that. And they cannot follow you from there. But we'll do an entire deep dive on how ghosts move, whether they can follow you, where they can go, how you can stop it if you think anything's going on. All theoretical, all from my perspective as a spiritualist. But spirits are not going to come into, you touch the wedding dress. It's not going to follow you home. It's not going to get you into a car accident. This is just not how it works. So as far as fear-mongering of Annabelle, especially Annabelle, that's not how it works. But people love to talk. Even I love to read stories. Even I love to watch ghost adventures. I don't care if it's real. I don't care if it's not real. It is fun. And I'm sure half of the people who watch Annabelle are probably also thinking the same thing, but I want to warn you about being scared. You don't have to be scared of any of this. You don't have to be scared of any haunted object. It will never harm you. It cannot harm you because you are stronger than any haunted object. And half the time, they were put there by a person just like you, or they just really like their item. So keep the item in good repair and keep it somewhere where you don't want to sleep, just enjoy your life. And so if you have a haunted object, by the way, please feel free to message me, and I will be happy to do a reading on it and see if it truly is haunted. If it is haunted, maybe we can hop on video and try to work it out together, or we can give this totally private, and maybe I could just take a look for you and give you some advice. Alright, thank you for watching, and I will be back with more from a priest.